Yeah, we just brought something to the
And Big
table that
Drizzy.
your favorite rappers they use that name. You know, it's all a spinoff from Fashizi and all that. You understand me? It all comes from
indeed.
it was the contribution.
For more than 30 years, E-40 has been the untouchable symbol of Vallejo, an OG who took the hyphy movement from street corners straight onto the map of American rap. The entire Bay Area owes him that respect, brotherhood, loyalty. The West Coast once felt like one big home, but inside that very home, E-40 learned the coldest truth. A traitor is far more dangerous than an enemy. A man he lifted out of poverty paid him back with betrayal. A blood relative plotted to drag him down, just to climb up himself. From the moment he was stabbed in the back, E-40 engraved 7 names in his heart, 7 enemies he swore he'd hate to the grave. This isn't a rap beef story. This is conspiracy, blood, honor, and right now, we expose each one of them. Don't blink, because the final name once shook the entire West Coast. Mid-80s. While Los Angeles was shaping gangsta rap, Vallejo, a Bay Area city sitting across from San Francisco's flashy skyline, was just a forgotten black dot on the map of America. Vallejo was buried in neglect, fighting high unemployment and economic collapse. No one even knew hip-hop existed there. Major labels, the media, radio stations all ignored this place. The hip-hop world only cared about New York, LA, and Houston. Until one family stepped out from Magazine Street and decided to rewrite history. The Stevens family, Earl Stevens, E-40, Danisha Stevens, D-Shot, Marvin Stevens, Sugar T, and Corey Stevens, B-Legit. They formed The Clique, a group built not just on talent, but on bloodline. The Clique, especially E-40, jumped into the game with nothing to lose and nobody backing them. They were rejected again and again by major labels. So what did E-40 do? He created his own lane. He founded Sick Wit It Records right inside his own home. No waiting for radio. No waiting for big magazines to say their name. They printed their own tapes, packed them by hand, and sold them straight from the trunk. Slanging tapes out the trunk, turning parking lots into distribution networks and flea markets and corner stores into their own radio stations. Their music hit raw, gritty, and real like fresh asphalt. E-40 twisting his tongue with Vallejo slang, a rapid-fire flow like a cocked pistol. Beats pounding like the heartbeat of street chases. The streets listened and got addicted. Then the historic moment arrived. In 1995, the album In a Major Way exploded like a bomb in the heart of the West Coast. E-40's success wasn't a solo run. He lifted the whole Bay Area into the spotlight. He signed local artists. He guided young talents onto the stage. He shared every dollar so they could get their first shot. Vallejo, once dismissed and looked down on, suddenly became the capital of the hyphy movement. The entire community stood tall with pride, and they called the same name E-40, the father of Bay Area hip-hop. But when E-40 lifted others up, some wanted to push him down. Fame breeds jealousy. Success turns into resentment. Money turns friends into enemies. E-40 only needed a few years to become a legend. But he would spend a lifetime figuring out who was truly family and who was holding the knife behind his back. Mac Dre, the most brutal betrayal in hip-hop history. Earl E-40 Stevens Magazine Street and Andre Mac Dre Hicks Tennessee Street grew up in the same trap-filled streets. They met, respected each other, worked together. It wasn't a coincidence they were the two warriors carrying the responsibility of putting Vallejo on the hip-hop map. While E-40 and the Clique were grinding and building an empire out of their trunk, Mac Dre was rising like an underground tidal wave. But Dre's life took a fateful turn. In 1992, he was arrested in Fresno on charges tied to a string of bank robberies. His darkest nights began there. Right after Dre was sentenced, a brutal rumor exploded. E-40 was the snitch, the one who fed the cops information to eliminate his strongest competitor and take over Vallejo alone. In prison, Mac Dre felt deeply betrayed. The brother he once rode with was now suspected of slamming the prison doors shut on his life. E-40, though innocent, was cursed with the rat label, a stain in hip-hop that never washes off. While Dre paid with his youth, E-40 signed a major deal with Jive Records, taking Sick Wit It nationwide and becoming a West Coast business powerhouse. That success only fueled enemies to say one thing: E-40 stepped up by stepping on Mac Dre. Brotherhood cracked. Pain turned into war. The real-life war. Bay Area. split into two sides. In 1997, Mac Dre stepped out of the prison gates as a new force. He built Thiz Entertainment and crafted a wild hyphy identity. He dropped vicious diss tracks aimed directly at E-40, accusing him of betrayal and stealing his shine. The Bay Area divided into two camps, and the beef spilled into real-world violence. This wasn't just their feud anymore, it became a civil war inside Vallejo. After the tension peaked, the two kings of Vallejo realized the true enemy wasn't each other, but those who wanted to divide them. They reconciled, publicly worked together again, and proved to the world that Bay Area brotherhood was stronger than any rumor. If destiny had ended, their Bay Area would have had the perfect ending. But fate chose the cruelest way to respond. Halloween, 2004, a brutal murder that shattered the Bay Area. In October 2004, Mac Dre Andre Hicks, the fire behind Bay Area's hyphy culture, traveled to Kansas City, Missouri. The tour was meant to expand Thiz Entertainment beyond the West Coast. October 31st, 2004, Kansas City. The group performed at a club. Fans were hyped. The night felt like a celebration, but that calm darkness was hiding a nightmare. Early morning, November 1st, 2004, Dre's van rolled down US Route 71. Suddenly, a car pulled up from behind and gunfire erupted. The driver screamed, called 911, but by the time police arrived, Mac Dre 34 was slumped against the passenger door, gone instantly. According to a 2021 investigative report, police described the scene as one of the most brutal shootings ever recorded. The van was destroyed, more than 30 bullets recovered. The community lost a legend. The Bay Area lost its hyphy heartbeat, and Vallejo lost its soul. The pain wasn't just the death, but the cold, sudden, unsolved nature of it. Investigators revealed before that night someone from Kansas City, an old contact, mysteriously helped arrange the transportation. A familiar face who appeared at the perfect moment, then disappeared just as fast. Who was behind it? Police never named a suspect. Rumors pointed at Fat Tone Anthony Watkins, a local rapper who had beef with Dre. He was questioned, but no evidence was strong enough to tie him to the murder. The case was labeled unsolved, locked away in darkness. The next year, 2005, Fat Tone was murdered in Las Vegas, believed to be retaliation for Dre's killing. Mac Dre's death wasn't just a shock to the Bay Area, it tore E-40's heart in half. To the community, Dre was a fallen icon. But to E-40, Dre was family. As E-40 was still reeling from the loss, the entire city suddenly turned into a silent courtroom. Old rumors returned like demons. E-40 was accused of having a hand in Mac Dre's death, or hiring someone to silence him forever. The stain of suspicion never fully left. Every show, every lyric, every look from the crowd felt like judgment. Many saw E-40 as the man who climbed up by stepping on his brother, even though there was never a single solid piece of evidence. To this day, no one knows the face of the person who executed Mac Dre so viciously. No one knows the real motive behind the ambush. Dre's journey from underground hero to cultural icon ended with a question mark. A brutal reminder that in the darkness, the enemy isn't always out on the streets. Sometimes, he's the one staring through the windshield. And just when E-40 thought he'd already endured enough pain from the world's misunderstanding, fate struck him with another knife, this time from the very man he once saved. Messy Marv, the most ruthless betrayal in E-40's career. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Messy Marv Marvin Watson emerged as a raw talent from San Francisco, a street-bred mob music rapper with big potential. But back then, he was just an unpolished diamond. No label, no backing, no one willing to bet on him. Except one man, E-40, the giant who built an empire from nothing, saw something big in Marv. While trying to heal and grow the Bay Area after its darkest moments, E-40 brought Marv into studios, introduced him to producers, and took him on tour. Most importantly, E-40 gave him access to top-tier beatmakers he could never afford or reach on his own. It wasn't just fame he gained, it was respect. Because now Marv was seen as E-40's guy. No paperwork, no contract, just trust and a man's handshake. He got shows because of E-40. He got beats because of E-40. Fans knew his name because of E-40. And E-40 believed, if I get to stand on this stage, my young soldier should stand beside me. But once the spotlight finally hit Marv, he started hearing poisonous whispers. You're only big because of 40. Without 40, nobody would know you. That's the kind of sentence a rapper's pride can't handle. And then, gratitude turned into ego. Ego turned into envy. Envy turned into hatred. The public stab in the back. Messy Marv didn't sneak around carelessly. He chose the biggest stage music in media. Diss tracks, shady radio interviews, accusations sharp like darts. Marv went straight for the most dangerous weak spot, the exploitation accusation. He claimed Sick Wid It Records wasn't a ticket to success, but a deal with the devil, where E-40 and the label took most of the profits, turning Marv into a victim inside his own hip-hop family. But he didn't stop at money. He stabbed directly at the pride of the Bay Area's big brother with the abandonment accusation. Marv insisted E-40 controlled how far Bay Area rappers could rise, just enough for his empire to benefit, but never enough for anyone to become real competition. And then he made it personal, calling E-40 old, outdated, irrelevant in the new West Coast era. That was the real brutality. Messy Marv used the very tools E-40 gave him, music and media, to drive a knife of betrayal into the back of his mentor. E-40 didn't respond. No diss track, no press drama. Because sometimes the deepest pain is watching someone who once called you brother turn away like you never existed. In an interview later, when asked about Messy Marv, E-40 only said one sentence: "I help people. Because I want to, not because I expect payback. I just never thought the cost would be this high." One act of betrayal was enough to kill trust. And in E-40's heart, Messy Marv became the coldest symbol of one word: ingratitude. What turned that stab into a nightmare was the timing right after the mysterious death of Mac Dre, when E-40 was still desperately battling the snitch curse. Marv's betrayal dug deeper into a brutal conclusion. Loyalty had died in the Bay Area. That wound still sits in his heart, a scar that will never heal in his billion-dollar legacy. E-40 survived everything. He survived the nightmare of Mac Dre's murder and the snitch demon. He endured the thankless betrayal of Messy Marv. E-40 stood strong, believing at least that blood ties were untouchable. But he was wrong. In the world of hip-hop, money and power are poisons that can seep into the most sacred relationships. In the end, the cruelest betrayal comes from where you least expect it: family. D shot the most painful betrayal. From his own blood, D shot Corey Stevens. The biological brother, a founding member of the clique in Sick Wid It Records, was the one who shattered E-40's belief in family loyalty. The clique wasn't just a rap group, it was a blood oath of the Stevens family. D-Shot, along with E-40, Sugar T, and cousin B-Legit, sold tapes out of trunks together and built the Sick Wid It empire from that little house on Magazine Street. E-40 was the mastermind, the trailblazer, while D-Shot carried the spirit of a pure artist, someone who felt overshadowed by his younger brother's spotlight, business power, and influence. E-40's intelligence and domination made D-Shot feel pushed into the shadows, swallowed by a billion-dollar brand that no longer felt like a brotherhood. As Sick Wid It grew into a money machine, D-Shot believed E-40, as the main operator, kept too much for himself, destroying the original meaning of "we rise together." E-40's success was overwhelming. D-Shot felt his own career was being erased by the shadow of his superstar brother. Jealousy and bitterness quietly grew inside him. The fall of a family. The tension built over years. Not loud like the war with Mac Dre, but slow and internal, like a wound that never stops bleeding. D-Shot began distancing himself from the clique and Sick Wid It. He tried to create an independent career, but could never escape the bond that tied him to E-40's legacy. A brutal legal battle, brother versus brother. The conflict between E-40 and his own brother wasn't a brief dispute. It was greed that had grown silently through years of success. It revolved around two cold truths: royalties and ownership of the foundation they built together. The early albums of the clique and the first Sick Wid It releases were priceless assets, still making millions through re-releases and licensing. The war wasn't fought in a studio, but in a courtroom. He took his own brother to court. He accused E-40 lawyers and the label's management of creating unfair biased agreements, stealing profits from the earliest hits of the Click and Sick With It. D-Shot claimed he never received the proper revenue share from the works he helped create. This wasn't rap beef. This was real litigation between two real brothers, because the price of injustice was millions of dollars. Lawyers were hired, accounting files exposed, and the dirtiest secrets of the Stevens family were dragged into the public. In hip-hop culture, where street law rules, this is the worst possible outcome. Family should always stay out of court. Problems must stay inside the house. D-Shot smashed that rule to pieces. What made this battle hurt more than any diss track was the method D-Shot chose. And for E-40, the man who spent decades building an image as protector and big brother of the Bay, the lawsuit fell like a hammer to the head. The worst kind of betrayal is the one that comes from home. And the next battlefield would be the identity of the entire West Coast. Federal conflict E-40 and the shadow of the notorious B.I.G. During the golden era of hip-hop in the mid-90s, America was split by a ruthless war East Coast versus West Coast. This wasn't just a music conflict. It was a battle of culture power and commercial dominance. On one side was Los Angeles Death Row Records with its wild G-funk energy. On the other side was New York Bad Boy Records with sharp boom bap and luxury swagger. The two empires controlled the media so heavily that the whole world saw only Tupac and Biggie as the face of hip-hop. So what about the Bay Area? They were pushed outside the game, seen as a side branch of the West Coast, a subculture not worthy of standing against the giants of LA or NY. E-40 and Vallejo faced a brutal truth. Even though they were building a sound with its own slang tone and street identity, nobody cared to look toward Northern California. Disrespected territory E-40 wasn't just a rapper. He was the flag bearer of the Bay Area. Although he always tried to stay out of big wars, he was forced into the battlefield when the notorious B.I.G., the King of the East, threw words the Bay Area saw as a direct insult to their status and cultural identity. In an interview, Biggie New York's #1 was asked to rate West Coast rappers. When E-40 was mentioned, he answered with one single word: E-40 0. No diss track, no argument, just a cold zero, a slash like a knife. To the world it was a joke. But to the Bay Area, Biggie wasn't just grading one rapper. He erased the entire Bay Area culture. Biggie and Bad Boy Records. Diddy used media as a silent weapon. In interviews, Biggie implied that mob music and the rising hyphy sound were a weird imitation not worthy to stand next to New York, the only true birthplace of hip-hop. Every time Biggie glorified the East Coast, it was another slap in the face to the sweat and pain E-40, Mac Dre Too Short, and the Bay Area poured into survival under nationwide disrespect. E-40 understood one thing: 1 second of silence meant erasure. E-40 fired back. He stepped into the media using interviews and his music to defend the Bay Area. He emphasized that Vallejo, San Francisco, and Oakland were independent creative centers, not shadows of LA or New York. Subliminal disses came out polite but razor-sharp, aimed straight at East Coast arrogance. Hip-hop has no gatekeepers. No one gets to decide who is real and who isn't. This wasn't about sales. This wasn't showbiz. This was a war of honor, gritty and strategic. The street hustler E-40 evolved into the cultural defender of the West Coast. Keek Da Sneak, the heartbreaking battle for the Hyphy King throne, and the price of pride. In the early 2000s, hyphy exploded, freeing the Bay Area from the shadow of old-school gangsta rap. And two architects stood at the core. Keek Da Sneak Charles Williams was the one who created the legendary word hyphy. He was the style pioneer, the cultural originator with that raspy voice and explosive street energy flow. E-40 Earl Stevens was the one who broadcasted the culture to the world. With the commercial power and connections of Sick With It Records, E-40 shaped hyphy into a product the mainstream market could access. At first, their collaboration was perfect, delivering era-defining hyphy hits. But the massive success of the movement became the spark for conflict. The clash between the two wasn't about money and a lawsuit. It revolved around something far more important in hip-hop cultural ownership and titles. When E-40 achieved major commercial success, like collaborating with Lil Jon and Big Stars Media, and labels started crowning him the godfather of hyphy. Or the Hyphy King. Keek Da Sneak felt deeply abandoned. He believed that title belonged to him because he created the term and brought the raw, original energy. Keek accused E-40 of commercializing and taking cultural identity just to get rich. He saw E-40 as a corporate outsider exploiting his creativity. Keek Da Sneak struck back with direct, furious diss tracks attacking not only E-40's business role, but also his rapping skills. Keek implied E-40 had sold out the culture to the big market and no longer held the raw underground roots. Through sharp bars, he declared that E-40 was just the promoter while he was the true creator. This lyrical war split the hyphy community, forcing fans to choose aside the originator Keek Da Sneak or the commercial powerhouse E-40. The war eventually cooled with reconciliation, but the price was extremely high. The fracture weakened hyphy right when the movement needed unity the most to go global. While E-40 continued expanding his empire, Keek Da Sneak lost golden collaboration opportunities and suffered major damage to his career. After all these exhausting battles, E-40 lost faith. But he still had one sacred bond left: historic brotherhood. And then, money fame. The spotlight, that beautiful light bright enough to burn every relationship to ash. Fading brotherhood. 2 Hort and E-40 when 2 kings drift apart. E-40 representing Vallejo and 2 Hort representing Oakland weren't just major rappers, they were the 2 pillars of the entire Bay Area hip-hop architecture. Their careers were marked by legendary collaborations like Rapper's Ball and the classics on the Federal album. Whenever they stood together, it was a declaration of Bay Area unity. West Coast brotherhood was real. And when these 2 kings began to drift apart, the entire Bay Area trembled. Signs of distance. The fracture didn't arrive. With angry curses, it came through cold silence, leaving the media to piece together clues throughout the mid and late 2010s. Solo albums from E-40 the Block Brochure series and 2 Hort noticeably lacked features from one another. That was alarming because collaborating had been an unwritten rule in both of their projects. At major West Coast hip-hop events, even when they attended the same show, they kept space between them. No public interaction at all. In interviews, when asked about each other, both gave generic, distant responses like, "We're good," still respect each other with no warmth, no future plans mentioned. Rumors spread that their long-anticipated joint collaboration album had been delayed indefinitely. That was the clearest message of all. The real reason behind the rift, because both E-40 and 2 Hort are extremely private. They left a wide gap for public speculation. Many believed the rift began from financial issues, a dispute over revenue splits from old hits or a past tour, a small crack that became a permanent break. But at its core, their differences became impossible to ignore. 2 Hort stayed loyal to the raw pimp rap identity, explicit, gritty, unchanged. E-40 evolved. He expanded into business liquor brands, real estate tech investments, a rapper becoming a business mogul. One stayed the same, and one climbed into a new class. And when one man rises too fast, the other can't help but feel left behind. There was no diss track, no loud scandal. Then in 2020, the Versus battle happened: E-40 versus 2 Hort live for the whole world. 2 names that once felt like one, now on opposite sides. They smiled, but those were tight-guarded smiles. They respected each other, but with distance and caution. The cameras caught every tiny facial reaction. Fans could feel it. This wasn't brothers anymore. This was 2 grown lions, fighting to claim one mountain called the Bay Area. The region was stunned, because if these 2 pillars no longer stood together, who would protect the soul of Bay Area hip-hop? After all those heartbreaks, E-40 became tougher, turning friendships into business relationships. His next conflict would be one ruled by paperwork and legal language, not personal betrayal. Copyright conflict with Richie Rich. Richie Rich wasn't some unknown rookie. He's a Bay Area legend out of Oakland, same generation as E-40. They were comrades who helped build the foundation of Bay Area hip-hop together. Richie Rich laid bricks in the rise of Sick Wid It Records and the legacy of the Click. Around 2020, a surprising dispute surfaced between E-40 and Richie Rich, 2 long-standing pillars of Bay Area hip-hop. Unlike the bitter wars of the past, this conflict came from business disagreements and misunderstandings specifically related to royalties and music management on old recordings. Richie Rich, who collaborated on foundational projects with E-40 and The Click, felt he wasn't properly credited and financially compensated for music he helped create, especially now that those songs were being redistributed on modern digital platforms. Richie Rich publicly voiced his frustration, questioning the transparency of E-40's management team. Unlike Messy Marv, Richie Rich didn't attack E-40 personally or with disrespect. The conflict stayed focused on business terms and shortcomings from the accounting and management side. The turning point of the story was how E-40 chose to resolve it. After years of betrayal and drama, E-40 chose professionalism, transparency, and respect for an old friend. Instead of denying or firing shots back, he publicly apologized to Richie Rich and to the fans. He admitted there may have been shortcomings or misunderstandings from his management team. E-40 committed to fully addressing all remaining royalty and payment issues, ensuring Richie Rich received his fair share. That action quickly extinguished the drama. This conflict proved E-40 had learned the harshest lessons. He refused to let money destroy a historic relationship. Instead, he used his power to heal wounds and reinforce trust within the Bay Area community. E-40 isn't just a rapper, he's a survivor. His journey isn't only about building a multi-million-dollar sick-witted records empire, it's about fighting betrayal. He fought through the death and snitch curse surrounding Mac Dre, a brother he lost unfairly. He endured cruel disrespect from someone he uplifted. Messy Marv proving kindness gets taken advantage of. He lived through the heartbreak of being betrayed by his own blood. D-Shot dragged into court by the family he protected. E-40 survived it all, rising to become one of the wealthiest and most influential figures in hip-hop history. But he is forced to live alone at the top, knowing his empire was built on broken brotherhood and promises that never lasted. Who do you think hurt him the most? Drop a comment and share your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe, so you don't miss the next episodes of this deep dive into the world of hip-hop. The journey has only begun.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.